Hi, everyone. My name is Naomi Dewar and I'm a Reno City Councilwoman, and I thought I would make some opening remarks before we formally start the meeting. We don't have a quorum, so we can't even start the meeting just yet. We're waiting for some more people to join, probably due to the weather, whatever. What I wanted to say is, how many people here have never been at a neighborhood advisory board meeting? Okay, majority. That's why I thought I'd give some opening remarks and just tell you a little bit about this neighborhood advisory board process, so you can just have a better comfort level about what to expect. I've been a Reno City Councilwoman for a little over 8 years. I was elected in 2014. And in the intervening 8 years, just about monthly, almost every month, we have a neighborhood advisory board meeting. It's usually held here. Sometimes we also hold it at the South Valleys Library, because our ward goes all the way from Moana Lane down to Mount Rose Highway. Okay, it's a pretty big area. It has about 55,000 people. So if you just think about going down Virginia Street, pretty much it goes all the way down. It includes all the developments like the Monty Ranch, Double Diamond, Cyan, etc. It also includes going north. It includes Lake Ridge, which is probably the primary development in this area. And then a variety of other developments. The people on the neighborhood advisory board, there are 11. Many of them will be on Zoom today, are apply to be on the board and are selected by the city council. They can serve, I believe it is 2 3-year terms, or 3 2-year terms, but about 6 years they can serve. I've had a advisory board member that's for 22 years. She's so committed. And she was actually on the advisory board when I was on the advisory board. I served on the advisory board for a number of years before I ever ran for city council. What happens here is development projects that are submitted come into the city, and they generally follow this process, majority of them. They are submitted, they go through a process. First, they come here. The advisory board will make some comments on behalf of the public. They live all throughout our ward. They're all ages, all creeds, all parties. And they will give me a first kind of snapshot of feel for the project, whatever the project might be. After it comes here, those comments that are submitted by the advisory board, and any member of the public can submit a comment as well, either through the comment portal, which we can get into later, or right here, you can submit it at the advisory board meeting, and they will be provided to the planning commission. The Reno Planning Commission has 7 members. They are appointed for 4-year terms. Each council member gets an appointment, and there are 7 council members and mayor, and there are 7 people on the commission. Once these projects get vetted by the planning commission, which is an open process as well, you can make comments there. The projects may or may not go to city council, depending what kind of project it is. PUDs go to city council. PUD amendments go to city council. Annexations go to city council. Tentative maps, which are the details about a project, generally do not go to city council unless the planning commission makes a decision and that decision is appealed to the city council. So for example, in a couple of weeks, we have a couple of appeals that are coming to us. We hear those at 6 p.m. I have interviewed some of you, and I realize many of you are here interested in what's happening with the Ranchera, the equestrian center there, and so on. To my knowledge, the developers who are represented here today by Andy Durling, raise your hand. He is a consultant with Wood Rogers, so he's on staff at a consulting firm, and this is one of their projects. He's been on the project since I got elected, so he's been seeing it all the way through. Before I go on, did we get any more members?
We do have a quorum.
Okay, good. Why don't we officially start the meeting? I'm going to continue some preliminary remarks, and then, why don't you start the recording and let them in?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to say a word about the Ranchera development. It is what they call a PUD, a planned unit development, which can be any size, but generally it's over 10 acres, and it basically sets its own zoning. It doesn't follow established zoning criteria. That's because they're taking a master plan look at it, and I'm using that word loosely, master plan, but a big picture look at it. And they're saying we're going to develop houses here, commercial here, whatever on the site. Okay. They did that 2014. I think we voted, when I voted was about 2015, I want to say. I just wanted to say a few things that some people in the back seemed interested in. When it came to me, I met with the developers. I had some opinions about Ranchera. And I just like to share a couple of those with you so you know how we got to today. One of the things that I thought was very important was we have something called safe routes to schools. And the way that the development was set up, if a parent wanted to drive a kid to school, they would come out Talbot, go down McCarran, go down Lakeside, go to Huff Acre School. That's for the elementary school. That is, and then they have to drive back. And then they might even come pick them up after school. That's another 2 routes. That's a lot of extra people on our roads for no good reason, really. So what I asked the developer to do was to put a bridge across the lake ditch so that kids could get dropped off or just walk from that spot over to the school. So that's an example of something I asked and something they did. I also asked them for years, there was no connectivity between the Ranchera property and Bartley Ranch, one of the few parks that you can ride in. So I asked the developer to put a bridge, a connection over from the property over to the Bartley Ranch. And they actually ended up moving some of the extra fences and corrals over to Bartley Ranch as well. Another thing I suggested was that they drop out the proposed amphitheater. I was very concerned about noise. It's an infill project surrounded by residents of different stripes and different developments. And it seemed that the amplified noise would be a problem. We also set an amplified noise buffer from 300 feet back from Del Monte. And that basically ends at the mansion or the clubhouse there. So no amplified noise in that section. There was amplified noise installed and we had code enforcement go out and they either turned it off or removed it as an example of how things work. Another thing was that I wanted to see a trail. It's a paved trail, go from McCarran all the way down to Del Monte so that people that are walking and biking didn't have to walk around the whole entire property, negotiate McCarran, Neal Road, a roundabout with bikes, but rather could go behind down the spine. And so they put that in as an example. Some people said they thought it was gone. It is there. I just saw it 2 months ago. So it's there. The whole idea was to provide connectivity again. So I'm giving you these examples. These are some things that when we review projects, including here, including at the Planning Commission, including at the City Council, we're looking about how to make projects better. One other thing was trees. So I started a project called Relief Reno to double the trees in Reno. This property had a lot of trees. They said, we hear you, we will set up a tree nursery. They moved a lot of the trees. They temporarily put them in this tree nursery. Some of them were moved over to the Reds development. Some of them were put back on the property. Some of them didn't make it. That's how that goes. So today we have an agenda, but you should have gotten it if you wanted it. Ranchera is not on that agenda. It is expected to be on March agenda. In fact, I just talked to the developers representative. They have not even submitted their PUD, Plan Unit Development Amendment, to change anything on Ranchera yet. They plan to submit it in a week. So it's not even submitted, so therefore it can't be even formally agendized anywhere. They did submit a master plan amendment, and that can be discussed later, but they are holding off on that until the PUD amendment proposal catches up. So we expect the first time this would be heard would be at March meeting, March 21st, 5:30, same room, same place. The developer would be expected to give a full presentation about all the things that they are proposing. And they are open to comments and questions. That is the purpose of these meetings, is to have early vetting of projects. Additionally, when you submit a master plan amendment, there is a required public meeting. So the developer is planning a public meeting. I don't know when or where. I don't think it's been set, but it would most likely not be here, but could be here, could be at the clubhouse. It could be any number of places. And that's a whole nother forum that's not done under the city umbrella per se, but the results are reported out of that meeting. And that's still to come too. And when they were originally developing Ranchera, they had about 10 meetings, I would say, public meetings, small groups, bigger groups. I attended some of those. They held tours. They did a lot to engage the public into the property and to the project. So with that as a setting, the way this meeting works is it's not on the agenda of Ranchera, if that's what you're here for. But we have public comment, and you can comment on anything that you would like to, whether it has to do with public safety, the snow, or Ranchera project, or the project that's actually on the agenda, which has to do with classic cars. And I think it takes place down by the Winco, down that general area off South Meadows. So before we get formally started with the meeting, are there questions about process or what's happening here? No, good, great. Okay, well, we have a chair. By the way, this advisory board is meant to advise me and the planning commission. So I don't run this meeting. We have a chair, and I'm going to turn it over to her if there are no questions about what's happening here. Yes, oh, there is a question.
I would like to speak, and I have my comments written out.
Wonderful.
Can I submit them?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And our clerk here today is Tyler Shaw. Tyler is
Hello,
my
everyone.
liaison. He is a community liaison. He facilitates this meeting. If you want to speak, you're going to fill out a form. That form will be entered into the records. They'll be provided to the planning commission. You don't have to have written comments. You can just speak orally. The whole meeting is being recorded. It's both on tape and on video. So being recorded 2 ways. There are minutes of the meeting. So all of that is available if you want to share it with someone that couldn't be here tonight or wants to know what's going on or wants to hear some questions. I've asked Andy Durling to speak first and give a little bit of an overview about the project so you learn a little bit about where it stands. Even though it's not on the agenda, he's going to make public comment. And the public comment is generally limited to 3 minutes. So we want to follow that so everybody can have a turn. And I also want to say after this meeting, you can submit comments. I generally recommend that you submit them to, we have a portal with our clerk, our official clerk of the city. And basically those go to public comment at reno.gov. They will forward them to the planning commission or wherever they need to go. You can also, I recommend people copy me. Again, I'm Naomi Dewar, and my email is Dewar, DUERRN for Naomi at reno.gov. And then you can also, of course, submit them to Tyler as well, so he can kind of manage the process. You had a question, sir.
When is the appropriate time or where we ask questions regarding what services the city is providing, such as sewer, electricity?
Oh, you can ask them in your public comment. You can call me, you can email me as well. Okay, so you can either discuss it here. I'll be here after the meeting as well. It just depends what your comment's about. You know, but I generally just try to quickly answer the questions. If it's a quick answer, that's asked through public comment. That is not the way, by the way, it's handled at the planning commission or city council. We try to be informal here. But at those meetings, they're not gonna ask a question. They're not gonna answer the question on the spot. They might make a comment like, hear you, that is an important issue. Tyler, could you meet with so-and-so and get them lined up for a meeting? Or that would be generally the way it's handled at a planning commission or city council. Okay. But here, if it's a short answer, I'll try to give the answer on the spot. Okay. Any last questions going once? Okay. I'm going to close this preamble to our meeting and get our meeting started. So thank you. And impressive that you've all been here, made it through the weather. Very impressive. Obviously, you care about stuff.
Thank you, Councilwoman Dewar.
Yeah.
All right, then let's call the meeting to order.
Excellent. Chair, oh, go ahead. Chair Strickler.
Here.
Vice Chair Schwarzer.
Present.
Fisher. I see you trying to unmute.
I'm here.
Thank you. Kidman.
Here.
Keats.
Yeah.
Langdon. Absent at this time. Langer. Absent at this time. Shin.
Here.
Thank you. Taylor. Absent at this time. Alternate Kimmons. Absent at this time. Council Liaison Naomi Dewar.
Here.
And my name is Tyler Shaw, like we said earlier, and I am here. Madam Chair, you do have a quorum.
I'd like to welcome all of you, our community members and members of Ranchera and our Ward 2 constituents. So thank you so much for coming out in this weather. We do apologize that you were misinformed that item was going to be on the agenda today. We're deeply sorry, but thank you for coming out. And at this point in time, we want to hear your comments. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up the public comment right now for discussion. I would like to call it Andrew Berlin, if there's Rogers first, come up and give us a short presentation. If everybody would like to hear what's happening. So thank you, Andy, for coming today.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Andy Gerling. I'm a urban planner with Wood Rogers. I've worked on the Ranchera project in its current form since its inception back in 2011. Started working for John Hare and then ultimately for the group that bought it from John Hare back in 2014. So the original plan for Ranchera included 722 homes on 140 acres, a mix of uses, commercial. You start to see, a lot of that has been built out so far. It also included an event center, which is now the Club at Ranchera, which reused John Hare's former mansion into the Club at Ranchera, and then the equestrian center, which I think you're all interested in. When this was approved back in 2014, there was kind of an acknowledgement that, an equestrian center was an opportunity that we wanted to explore. The idea being that, people that lived in Ranchera could board horses there and have kind of a riding club. That's not panned out the way we originally anticipated. And so we're looking at different reuse options for it. This was kind of anticipated back in 2014, and actually in the plan unit development in the PUD currently, there's an ability to build up to 7 homes on that parcel. And so that's in essence what we're looking at right now is just options for that property. So unfortunately, we don't have a lot of the details at this point. As Councilmember Dewar mentioned, we'll be submitting the PUD amendment in actually next Monday is a submittal intake for the city. We submitted the master plan amendment. They're only accepted quarterly at the city. So we kind of got that in, and then there was a lot more work that goes into the plan unit development handbook. So it took us a little bit more time to get that in. So we will be submitting that, and that'll kind of start the clock. We wanted to take everything together as one package rather than kind of piecemealing it. So the plan at this point is to be back to the NAB tentatively March 21st, I think is your next NAB meeting. We also, because it's a master plan amendment, Nevada state statutes require that we host a neighborhood meeting. So we'll be hosting a neighborhood meeting. We notify all property owners within 750 feet as required by state law. So we'll be hosting that, probably host it at Ranchera. We anticipate, don't have a date for that, but postcards will get sent out for that. And then ultimately it would be, going to planning commission, tentatively maybe sometime in April or May would be the timeline for that. So apologize for not having a lot of details tonight, but, understood that there might be some folks here interested in it. So wanted to come and at least give a little introduction and kind of provide, say hello and introduce myself, and then kind of give you the assurance that we'll be providing more information in coming months. So with that, I think I've got a few minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you, Andy. With that, I'd like to open up the floor to public comment. So we'll take each speaker with one public comment at a time. So we have somebody who'd like to start us off.
Oh, I've got
Sorry, you got
it's okay. I've got an order.
Also, we have 3 extra chairs and things, so if anybody standing wants to use one of those.
And someone left the lights on this side.
Okay, Madam Chair, we will start with Jennifer Jacques. I hope I
And
said
there's
that
2
right.
more chairs back here as well. 4 more chairs back there.
As a reminder, you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Jennifer Jaquish, and I've been an equestrian boarder at the Ranchera Equestrian Center since 2017. I would like to open my statement with some quotes from Chip Boldy, formerly of Reno Land Development, that were made to the public in the RGJ October 2015 about the iconic property. Ranchera is the hood ornament for our company. We're going to keep 43 acres of natural open space, which is 30% of the property. We're taking this very seriously, so we're meeting with neighbors to find out what their feelings are. knowing they're going to lose a lot of open space. Ultimately, the goal is to keep a lot of things that make Ranchera special, such as the main house and the horses, while improving the overall experience. Our plan is to continue to preserve the historic nature of the property and build on the legacy of the Hare family. We want to make it just as good or even better. Reno Land Development has had several large projects within our community, which establishes a track record. Park Lane Mall was demolished and the site sat vacant for years. Now there are high-rise buildings there, rows and rows of them. Lake Ridge had an indoor tennis court that our community enjoyed, and they were destroyed rather quickly after permits were issued. As history has a tendency to repeat itself, that is our concern with the Equestrian Center and the rezoning it to mixed suburban use. The Equestrian Center and remaining open space associated with it is what makes Ranchera community unique. The amount of open space that has been lost over the years, the mature trees and landscape that has been destroyed, and the amount of homes and buildings that have been put up is hard to watch. Allowing the open space to be developed on, for example, like more villas or condos, will increase the congestion in already congested development. For example, when there's an event at the club, it's already difficult to find parking. Our equestrian community hears the concerns of the residents at Ranchera, and we have many concerns as well. We echo their thoughts on maintaining the remaining open space. We support them. The boarding facility is home to over 50 horses, which is at capacity. This is all without any advertising, as the management of Ranchera has removed it from their website and Facebook around 2020. Moves like this and now applying for rezoning really sends a message without saying it that the equestrian center will be removed and more homes built. I understand that our Reno community is growing and I support growth, but the major projects with these associated developers in our city haven't necessarily gone the way they were presented. This type of track record and dishonesty is why Ranchera community is concerned. Please maintain the open space and say no to rezoning. Thank you.
Up next, we have Holly Hagan, who will be followed by Audrey Keller.
And do you want to say who's after her too? Yeah. And maybe the next person will pick you up as well, just be prepared.
We have Holly up here now. Following her will be Audrey Keller, and then after that, we will have Christine Swede. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Holly Hagan. I live in Reno, Nevada. I want to say thank you for the apology that it wasn't on the agenda, but we all knew it wasn't. That was not confusion. This is just such an important issue. And historically, in the last few years, several development projects have gone through, and it's almost like an after the fact. So I think the community felt like they had to make a presence and get the process started sooner, so we didn't get blindsided. So it was interesting to hear the opening statement about 722 homes planned, because if you look at the published development plans for this area back in 2020, it was 555 homes. So clearly there are more homes planned now than there were even just 3 years ago. The initial development, when they were building out the property, they highlighted the equestrian center. There were banners all around the property about the equestrian center. There are videos on YouTube that you can see highlighted by Toll Brothers selling homes to people, that there was an equestrian center there. And now when you go to the Ranchera Equestrian Center website, it's gone. And instead there's pictures of dirt and foundations being built. There are no more banners. And clearly they've decided to stop promoting the equestrian center as a selling feature in the Ranchera community, which is disappointing. The Ranchera Estates, which is where the 1 acre lots are now, are available. That was originally called the Equestrian Estates, and they've renamed that. So it's almost at every step of the turn, they're trying to eliminate anything that has to do with equestrian. It's true, the zoning right now would allow for 1 acre parcels with 7 homes to be built. But if this zoning is allowed to go through, that could go up to 30 homes per acre, which would be 210 instead of 7. And maybe that's where the difference is between 555 and 722. So I encourage you, if you want to keep some open space, if you don't want to be like a concrete jungle, and that's what Ranchera is turning into, we have to step up and be heard and let the developer know that we completely oppose rezoning. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I was like, was that somebody commenting? Anyway,
No.
so that was what I had to say. Please oppose the rezoning and let's keep Ranchera and its legacy intact.
Andy, could I just have you address the issue of 722,555, whatever the number is?
So the zoning that governs Ranchera, so it's as Councilman Durr said, it's planning development. So that is a specialized zoning specific to Ranchera. So just the 140 acres that encompasses Ranchera is permitted to have up to 722. At this point, we don't anticipate that we're going to go much above 500. So what's been approved and platted as far as mapped lots and things like that that are able to be sold, we're somewhere around 500 or so. So that's maybe the confusion. Some of the marketing materials that the builders are using is in the 500 range, but the PUD itself allows for up to 700.
But if you change the rezoning, won't that increase because?
No,
it's 7 acres?
so we're not anticipating to increase it. So because right now we're plotted to, some being somewhere in the 500s, we've got 200 plus homes left. We're not anticipating getting anywhere near that. So we're not increasing the number that was originally planned. It's more just reallocating them around. There were areas of the ranch that were anticipated to be much higher density, not necessarily in this area of the equestrian center that ended up being kind of larger lots. But to the north side is an urban residential area that was anticipated to be much higher density. And we're just not seeing the market for that at Ranchera. So it's not anticipated to be that.
Only at this point.
Okay, our next commenter will be Audrey Keller, followed by Christine Speed, followed by Christine Hagbert. You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Audrey. I'm a recovering Californian. I'm happy to be in Nevada and I'm really happy to have bought in my home in Ranchera. And I'm sort of happy to meet you all, but not under these circumstances. When we moved here from California, we moved here and chose the Ranchera lifestyle. We were looking for that ranch lifestyle. We could have chosen a golf course if we wanted to. We lived on a harbor. We could have chosen anywhere, but we chose the ranch lifestyle. How many homeowners are here from Ranchera? How many? How many horse boarders are here from Ranchera? See the numbers? And this is only in a couple of weeks, we've drummed up enough interest to say, look, something's wrong with this story. And the story is that just like myself, I got brochures from Toll Brothers, right? So Toll Brothers sold us a ranch and a lifestyle with horses in it. Our community is named Latigo after a horse saddle. Our logo has horses on it. Our streets are named after horses. So look I don't blame Mr. Durling for any of what happened before. I think that's his profession. However, when we got sold by Toll Brothers, that wasn't the story we heard. We heard equestrian lifestyle. We heard Bartley Ranch Park and the adjacent riding areas. We heard open spaces. So somehow the messaging got lost between selling and developing. So look what I think is that Toll Brothers, speaking from my own experience, I think it was a bit of bait and switch. I don't know about you all. But fraudulent marketing is about what involves offering us as a prospective homeowner a beautiful vision, brochure, horsey pictures, horsey lifestyle. And then when they've closed the deal, all of a sudden we find out in less than a year that they're going to wipe out the equestrian center, the developer. That's the intent. So that in my book is bait and switch. I don't know how y'all feel about that, but I'm angry about that. That's not right. Now there are 200 new homes that closed in Ranchera. That represents $300 million of investment by everybody that bought a new home or a piece of land. 300 million. Well, that means, folks, we are investors too. So I want to remind you that as a class, we are investors and we should not be ignored by our developer friends that would like to do other things like add more housing. Okay. What I'd like the board of directors of Toll Brothers and RHH to come together. I want them to sell the equestrian center to the community. And I want them to do it and let us form a nonprofit. That equestrian center has value and it's valuable to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, up next, we have Audrey Keller, followed by Christine Speed.
Just
I'm Christine Speed.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
Christine Speed, followed by Christine Hagler.
Hi, I'm Christine Speed. I live on Braided Rope Drive, just to continue the equestrian metaphor. And I'm a resident, of course, at Ranchera. And when I was younger, I used to ride quarter horses in Orange County and Appaloosa horses into the Sierra Nevada high country out of Red's Meadow at Mammoth Lakes. I was attracted to move to Nevada and Ranchera for its less hurried, more rural, horses in our midst, nostalgic atmosphere. Also for the green space and the legacy architecture of mansion, equestrian center, and pavilion, where John Hara kept his photo collection. These structures give us our unique identity. Yet I haven't even lived here for a year, and already I'm seeing how this iconic property is being chipped away at and transformed into something else. Why? Why, when it's so wonderful? For building more lucrative housing that goes up, such as the villa condos. These are in the modern architectural style that clashes with the mansion and at a height that dwarfs it and blocks all of our mountain views. The developer is actually trying to sell the mansion, but they just trashed the value of the mansion for them and for all of us by building these condos. It feels unfair because what was marketed to me, like to Audrey, was an equestrian community, not Balboa in the mountains. Now, I used to live on Balboa Island in Newport Harbor, in Newport Beach, California. The villas look like they come straight out of Balboa Island. And the only thing missing is the ocean. Here's what I mean.
Perhaps go to your left so that the screen isn't sharing.
Just scoot that way a little bit.
No, to your left.
To your left. There you go. Keep going a little more.
And facing to the camera too. And,
Right
and come back a
there.
little bit so they can see your hill move. There you go.
There you go.
So-
Okay.
Okay, so this is the view from the patio of the mansion. And as you can see, there are mountains in the back. That was there when I first bought. And now this kind of shady, those are the villas, and they are blocking the entire view of the mountains. And they are going to go all the way over. So now, here's what they look like. Here's how they dwarf the mansion, and they're totally a different architectural style. And this poor person built a little ranch house. And right after he built that ranch house, they built this, and I'm standing in his park and his driveway,
Thank
and
you.
that's what he looks at.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Speed. Your 3 minutes are up.
Thank you.
Have comments you'd like to? Up next, we have Christine Hagberg, followed by Jennifer Smith.
Hi, I'm Christine Hagberg. I think I checked no to speak, but I will speak now.
Oh.
I will in 3 minutes. I've been in Reno since 1996 and have been a horse lover since I was 5. Recently, this past year at the rodeo, I purchased a horse and I had no place to board this horse. And so I somehow came across Ranchera. It's the most prestigious barn setup for anybody in the equestrian business or working with horses. And so knowing that this has kind of been happening, it's really unfortunate. I lived in the Bay Area for a long time, San Mateo, and I can tell you where Bay Meadows was truly an iconic place. Now it's filled with nothing but houses, apartments, condos. It's a jungle. I really hope that Reno and the people of Reno look at this differently and realize this is John Harris' legacy. I'm sure he's rolling in his grave knowing what's happening to this property. This was not what it was supposed to be. So please keep Ranchera Equestrian Center. Thank you.
Up next, we have Jennifer Smith, followed by Michael Tribal.
Hi, everybody. I'm an equestrian, kind of like the equestrian center. I board a horse there. I've been at Ranchera since January of 2019. I was there briefly with another horse in 2012. You've heard a lot of very eloquent speakers talk about bait and switch and misrepresentation. And I wonder if they ever really meant for this to be an equestrian community, if they ever really meant to honor John Harrah's legacy and this beautiful, iconic estate in Reno, some of the last open space left. I'm not sure that they did. And if they actually knew that they weren't going to keep their word, what does that make them? I have to wonder. One of the questions I want to answer for Ms. Dorr is how we heard of this meeting. And although I understand this item isn't on the agenda, on January 20th, 2023, all of the property owners, and I don't own property at Ranchera, but a good friend of mine does and knew I would be just as concerned as he is, was sent out by the City of Reno Development Services Department, indicating that they received an application, as was mentioned earlier, from Ranchera Holdings for a master plan amendment, parks, greenways, and open space to urban mixed use. And they referenced the 6-acre site, which is the equestrian center. They said the tentative date for the Ward 2 Neighborhood Advisory Board was today. The tentative public hearing date, which I understand is in flux, was March 1, and that it would be heard by the Planning Commission and City Council thereafter. So that's kind of what started all of this. That was sent out to all of the homeowners. One thing I think you should know is that at one point it was said that the ranch, that the equestrian center would be for sale to a private owner. And I believe it was listed for about $5 million. Well, a friend of mine made an offer to purchase it for $4.5 million. There was no counter. There was no negotiation. She was simply told, oh, sorry, the property is no longer for sale. It's off the market. So again, bait and switch, misrepresentation. Was it just words so that people would believe that they were doing what they said they were going to do? I have to wonder. Thank you for being here.
Up next, we have Michael Tribal.
I just have a question for the.
But could you come up, sir? So it's being, well, it's being recorded, and we can best hear you if you're up front.
I just have a question for you, sir. Said that the development didn't work out the way you thought it would. Can you explain that?
Well, you know, we'll provide more detail at I was coming not with a presentation tonight, just to try and give kind of an overview.
Well, I think we deserve to know what you mean.
Well, the plans haven't even been submitted to the city yet, so I think it's premature to talk.
I don't.
It's taken 1 minute to rebuttal.
Okay, up next, we have Bonnie McCurdy, who will be followed by Catherine Madeline.
Hi, everybody. I have a little bit of a different take on it. I'm not a homeowner, but I have 2 horses that I board at Ranchera. And I come every day to take care of them, to give them exercise and love. The barn is a community within a community. So I watch as children learn how to be responsible human beings as they are taught how to care for and ride horses. Horsemanship is not easy, and this is one way to help future generations learn that hard work pays off. It teaches compassion and trust and builds confidence in our young people. It is a real life activity and is a wonderful alternative to computer games and being hooked into social media. To lose the equestrian center would be robbing these young people of their passions. For some of us older people, the equestrian center is a dream come true. I've worked hard all my life, and I am just now able to afford to board horses. Excuse me. I take lessons from knowledgeable trainers. I go on peaceful trail rides and I walk my horses around a safe community. All the people that see me walking around love to come up to me and talk to my horses, pet them, bring their grandchildren. I've had so many people, I keep my horses one of my horses in the pasture. People every day from the community come and talk to me and seem to really, really love it. And so I'm getting a little emotional. I just love the equestrian center and I do not know where I would keep my horses if it got torn down and was replaced with more homes or condos. My fellow boarders also don't know where they could go. All the places are just becoming few and far between. Plus, many people will be out of their jobs. There's a lot of trainers there and people who work there, the young people who help take care of the horses. It's a wonderful opportunity for young people, some mostly girls, but there's some men who work there and you know, maybe they're going to high school or college soon, but it's a great place to be. So yeah, it just seems like it's Ranchera was built to be an equestrian community. That's how I first heard about it. And the bait and switch is just not honest or ethical or acceptable, just so that some already wealthy people can make some more money. There are other places to build homes without demolishing the historic equestrian center and losing a part of Reno's horse culture. So that's just my encouragement that we don't displace 50 horses and a bunch of people who have built their lives around this opportunity. Thank you.
Up next, we have Catherine Madeline, who will be followed by Nancy Podwillis Baba. Hope I said that right.
Close.
Go ahead, Catherine.
All right. So I'm a resident at Ranchera, and like so many of us, we thought we were drawn in by its beauty, mansion, stable. I mean, for me, it was a dream. I used to ride it as a kid, and I wanted to start riding again. So I currently do ride at the stable. I ride one of the school horses. I've met so many wonderful people at the barn. It's a very active barn, completely full, and I can't even fathom the thought of it being gone. So, like so many, Toll Brothers told us it was going to be part of the package. And one of my questions for the developer is, if they promised to not tear down this stable, then why are we even here talking about rezoning? That shouldn't even be on the board. Shouldn't be a question. So clearly, I feel like we've been lied to. There is this bait and switch, that there's something, a hidden agenda, and definitely they are looking to put, I've heard 24 to 30 homes on that site. Originally, it was discussed maybe 7 big custom lots. Now it's looking to do something bigger. Again, making Ranchera not what it's supposed to be. I want to preserve the history, the beauty, the open space, and I'm just seeing it dwindle to Cement City, the big towering villas, which are an eyesore, taking away our views. And again, I don't want to see the horses go. I actively use it, and I'm a homeowner, and I feel very frustrated, and I feel like I've been lied to. So I'm really reaching out to the city, reaching out to the folks in this room, hoping for support and really listening to us and saving the equestrian center. Thank you.
Up next, we have Nancy Podwillis Baba, who will be followed by Stephanie Rundin.
Hi, my name is Nancy Podwillis Baba. I live in Ranchera. We've lived there a little over 2 years. We also have a property that we purchased that is available for rent in Ranchera. I'm not a horse owner. I'm not a horse rider, but I love the open spaces. I love seeing the horses and seeing the house after house after house after house, almost looking identical to the house just next to them, is depressing. We do not need more high-end houses, even if there are people from California that would love to buy them. We need to have a quality of life, and the equestrian center seems to be a big part of that. So please think carefully and do not demolish the recreation, the equestrian center.
And I meant to bring you up before. There was this comment about 7 lots, 30 You're submitting in a week. Do you know what you're anticipating?
So right now, it's allowed to have 7 lots. That's what's currently in beauty. What we're anticipating is something akin to height designation, which is in the handbook, which could allow for kind of smaller patio homes.
Like this 30 or something more perhaps?
50, something, yeah, do that one.
Okay, thank you.
Nope, we don't have any plans.
Okay. Up next, we have Stephanie Rundin, who will be followed by Barbara Bell Smith.
Hi, good evening. My name is Stephanie Rundin. I live on Mayorwood, as in the female horse, Mayorwood Trail, in Ranchera. And like so many people, I moved from the Bay Area to Reno, and part of the reason why I moved to Reno was again for more open space. I specifically chose to live in Ranchera for the same reason so many other people have mentioned, because of the horses, and that's what I was sold. So in my brochure, I actually have a map of the property, and the equestrian center is actually highlighted in my brochure. I live in Latigo, and this was the brochure for Latigo. Beautiful horse on the front cover. By the way, every television in every model home in Latigo had a picture of horses grazing in a pasture. Again, this is part of my brochure. It's a lovely horse in a pasture. And then this is my neighborhood. And again, we have this woman and a horse in a pasture. Growing up, I was part of the Lafayette, California Pony Club. I also owned a horse when I was a young woman. I don't own a horse now, but I was so looking forward to perhaps someday buying a pony and keeping it at the equestrian center so that I could share my love of horses with grandchildren. I walk around the equestrian center nearly every day. For those of you who board your horses, I'm the lady with the black lab who keeps being told, please don't pet the horses. I have made great friends with Sophie, Jelly, and Star. Star is the mini horse who I adore. And it just gives me great pleasure to be around horses and around a horse community. And again, that's the reason why I moved to Ranchera. Like others, I feel like I was told one thing and shortly thereafter, everything's changed. I'm incredibly disappointed with the building that's going on in our community. And as everyone else has said, those condos are just, again, I feel like I was sold a bill of goods there too. I knew that they were going to be developing something. Nobody told me they would be 3-story condos. But again, more importantly, the equestrian center just means the world to me. And I humbly request that the zoning not be changed. Thank you.
Up next, we have Barbara Bell Smith, followed by Marianne Marion.
I didn't fill that form out to talk, but I'm gonna talk.
Somehow we got your name there on a form.
Yeah, anyway, I used to ride dressage. I love horses. I think the equestrian center should stay. I think it is the heart and soul of Ranchera. And if you move it out, it's gone. Our soul is gone. It's just homes. Thank you.
Up next, we have Marianne Marion, followed by Craig Johnson.
Hi, I'm Marianne Merriam, and I've been to a few of these meetings, a lot of city council meetings, a lot of county commissioner meetings. Each and every time, it's this. It's like, is there nothing sacred? Nothing. It appears is. We have such wonderful history of horses and livestock in this neighborhood, and property after property after property after property. The horses are being zoned out. There's no room for them. And it's not just the horses, it's water use. It's, where does that stop when we all run out? The more people who own and live here with houses are going to be using more and more water, as well as the heat sink for the temperature of the entire city. Raising. I mean, what is it, 10 degrees more per year than it was 10 years ago? 10 or 12, I read the other day. It's just, where does it stop? It's not. What is this going to be? Sacramento in 10 years? God help us. It's frustrating. And I'm glad this is a much more informal arrangement tonight, or I probably wouldn't be up here bleeding my heart out. But where is it going to stop? Can it be this? Let's stop it here. I would be very much.
Up next, we have Craig Johnson. Craig Johnson. Oh, okay. Madam Chair, the remainder of the forms I received indicated they did not wish to make a statement. Would anyone who submitted a form earlier like to make a statement? If you could tell me your name and come up to the front.
Richard, come on out.
I've got 2 shots of tequila. The other speakers.
That's okay.
But I'd like to say
Please introduce yourself.
that I moved to Reno, Nevada in
Could you introduce
1967.
yourself, Sir,
I mean,
could you just say your name?
Richard Shield.
Shield.
I moved to Reno, Nevada in 1967. I went to UNR, University of Nevada, Reno. I was a founder of Heritage Bank. I owned Stetson Beamer Insurance out of college. And of course, the dispensary on Plum Lane. However, the shade was happening to Reno, Nevada. Our city council and so forth, through project after project after project with no infrastructure. We have no infrastructure. We have no place to go, okay? I used to live on Sawbuck, in Collin Ranch. I sold my big house because I wanted a smaller house, downsize. I downsized to Toll Brothers, which by the way is another issue, as a builder. Okay, and I'm fighting him right now, okay? And I did it because of the Equestrian Center and so, because I grew up on a farm in upstate New York. Okay, so it's my experience being in the insurance industry my whole life, is that these builders get whatever they want, whenever they want, through the council, okay, through the city, okay, and it's got to stop. It's all about greed, greed, greed. I've seen it my whole entire life here in Reno, Nevada. I've insured the biggest ones.
Thank you for your comments. Would anyone else who filled out a form like to speak? If you could come up to the front and introduce yourself. You'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Kathleen Cook. I'm a boarder. I was born in Reno, Nevada, so I don't know if anybody else was born here, but I've seen the degradation of Reno. Yes, we have to grow and we spread out. I get that. We have to have new parliament, we have to have houses for people, but it's become a Reno on steroids as far as development. I was one of the very first horses that moved in to Ranchera. And from the very beginning, there was a question about the equestrian center. It didn't matter who was in charge as the management. Those of us who moved in first were on pins and needles, wondering if in 3 months we were going to have a barn to be at. And this has been going on for 12 years. I have moved my horse twice because they were going to close the barn imminently. So off we went. Then we came back. Off we went. Then we came back. And it's the same old story. Methinks that the developers speak with forked tongue. And they have from the very beginning. This has never been an honest situation. They have never dealt with this fairly. We've had the meetings with Mike Winkle and all sorts, well, in my time, John Bush, all evasive, all will let you know, we'll give you 6 months notice if we need to move your horse. I'm really tired of it. I think we need to stand together here and make sure this equestrian center remains open. Thank you.
I think there's another gentleman.
Yes.
And if you did fill out a form, you can still speak and fill out the form after.
Yes, easy peasy.
Hi, my name is David Marlowe. I live outside of your ward, but very close to it. I hike in the equestrian area frequently. I was a little appalled when I went down there today and saw the condos that are hideous, totally out of place with the neighborhood in Reno. My question though is I can't get a straight answer. Who put in the infrastructure, the electricity, the sewer, the signs? All of that stuff, was it the city or is it the developers? And by the city, I mean us.
So
The developers.
I can answer that. I mean, the developer typically in Reno puts in the infrastructure and then typically will deed it over. I don't know with Ranchera being a gated community, maybe Andy knows this, who owns and maintains the roads, the sewer. Sewer is maintained by the city sewer. The water is maintained by the Truckee Meadows Water Authority, but the roads, I don't know.
Yeah, but neither the water or the sewer was there. So
No, they built it and then deeded over.
deeded over. And where did it connect to? There's a connecting to. There wasn't anything really around it to support it.
So with all new development, the development say self-pays for the infrastructure that they're putting in. So in the case of Ranchera, they paid for all the roads, the sewer, the water, the power, the gas. Everything you see that's on the ground has been paid for by the developer. In the case of Ranchera, most of it's maintained by the homeowners association. It's a private gated community, so the streets, landscaping, things like that. As Councilwoman Dewar mentioned, the water is a public facility. It's built by the developer and then it essentially handed over to the water authority. Same with sewer, and it connects to, connected to facilities in Talbot, Kitski, things like that that were surrounding. It was already there.
That's good to hear. I'm grateful to hear that. Just one other question I had. I think I saw that the homes in there are starting at like 1.345 million. Is that right? Something like that? Okay. That's what I read about. I'm not clear, but I see it's a gated community. It's 1 point something million plus this or that. And I saw some reference of helping to alleviate housing crunch, and I can easily find $1 million homes, believe me, no problem. It's affordable housing, that's the issue, not this crap. So that's it. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who filled out a form that would like to give public comment? Go ahead. Please state your name. You'll have.
My name's Timothy Parks. My daughter's Madison. We got a national show horse that stays over at Ranchera. I just have one question, so let's say that the equestrian center is tore down. Let's say that, would it still remain Ranchera? I'm asking you technically. Is it, so if you guys do actually get to tear down the equestrian center like you're proposing, is it still going to be called Ranchera?
Yes.
That sounds ridiculous to me, because what is a ranch? I feel like that's a part of the scheme is you guys are going around selling this ranch dream. And it's your plan all along to not have that in place. So maybe you change it to like housing project era or something like that. I'm just here for some suggestions, maybe. That's just something I'd like for you guys to think about in this whole thing.
Is there anyone else in the room?
To Galvin.
Please come forward and introduce yourself. You'll have 3 minutes.
Buddy, and I've been a resident for about 30 years here in Reno. And I think the thing that we all need to remember is that we all love this location because of its outdoor beauty and the open spaces that we still have. And we don't want it to become a concrete jungle, that term. And the problem is that, we can do things now thinking, well, it's gonna be fine, it'll be great for the community. But in 5, 10, 15 years, we can't undo what we've done. It's there. And we can't change that. I just came back from Texas, that's where I'm from. And when I go to Houston, my hometown, I love the open spaces that have been preserved for so long because it is a concrete jungle there, it's growing, but there are so many beautiful places that I can still go to and enjoy. And I want Reno to be that way. I want us to maintain those little pockets that we have because we are growing and it's happening, it's inevitable, but let's preserve these beautiful locations that are so dear to us.
Is there anyone else in the room who would like to give public comment today? You will have another opportunity to give public comment at the end of the meeting. Madam Chair, I'm going to move to the virtual participants. We do have quite a few on the Zoom. If anyone on the Zoom would like to give public comment today, please indicate by raising your hand using the Zoom function down at the bottom of your screen, and I will call on you one at a time. And we'll start with Ms. Walker. You should be able to unmute now. You will have 3 minutes. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. What I would like to have the council reflect on and our wonderful development representative to reflect on is this is the same song and dance that we get every single time these big developers come to town and buy these wonderful spaces that we have because they see the value to our community, the quality of life that they've brought to multi-generations of our community. And so they come in and they make concessions when the community stands up and says, no, we don't want a developer to purchase this because you're going to take away our quality of life and you are going to infringe on the quality of life we are trying to preserve here for our children and future generations. And they say, oh, don't worry, we'll keep the mansion and we'll keep the equestrian center as a historical feature of the community and we will preserve it. We won't ruin the quality of life in the area. And yet they turn around in the darkness of night and they pursue changing the zoning and changing the agreements and the commitments they made to everybody, hoping that it goes unnoticed, hoping that the weather isn't good enough for people to come and stand up to them, hoping that we're too busy keeping up with the cost of living in the city and the town that they rate by raising prices and doing multi-million-dollar houses in a community where who are they creating housing for? They're certainly not creating housing for the community that has lived here for 4 generations or 3 generations. That's not what they're creating a lifestyle for. They're stealing it from us and our future children and grandchildren so that they can sell it to somebody else while they rub shoulders with us at the local hockey rink and tell us they're doing good things for us in our community and have dinner with us at the local restaurants and say that they're great community members. And yet every day they make choices for the almighty dollar and could care less about our quality of life here and how we are able to enjoy what John Hara, what any of the other people. Look at Verdi. If you want to see an exact example of what these people do in these kinds of situations and how the city councils ignore it and turn a back to it and let this stuff go on, go drive through Verdi.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Walker. You've elapsed your 3 minutes. There will be another opportunity to give public comment at the end of the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, we are going to move on to Laura Pasek. Ms. Pasek, you should be able to unmute.
Hi there. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Hi, my name is Laura Pasek.
Oops. Let's see here, Laura. Are you still there, Laura? Hold on.
Can you hear me
Can
now?
you Yeah, we can hear you now. I'm not sure what happened, but I'm restarting your time, so go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. Again, my name is Laura Pasick. I'm a resident here at Ranchera, and like many other people have said, I was under the impression that the horses were going to stay. I don't personally ride, but I love seeing them. My dog's a big fan of their output, if you will. And I'm an attorney, and we have a reputation for being slimy, but I think this developer takes the cake on that. This was as many people have said, a bait and switch. I don't have much to add beyond that, but it's deplorable. And they already have a reputation, I believe, in dealing with a tennis court debacle for doing this. And if we don't stand up, and if the city doesn't stand with us, this is going to continue to happen. And yeah, it's going to turn into a concrete jungle. And that's not what Reno should be. Reno's beautiful. That's why I love living here. And these slimy people are going to take that away from us for a dime, trying to tell us that they're not making money. We all know that's a whole load of, well, horse crap. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Up next, we have Nancy Chantos. You should be able to unmute. You'll have 3 minutes. Please start with your name.
My name is Nancy Chantos. I don't live in Ranchera, but I really appreciate the beauty of the area. And I live on the corner of Plumas and McCarran. And I don't know if this is a question for Naomi or somebody else, but if there's a PUD, are they trying to change what was put into writing to make this happen? Or how is this able to go on when there's something as legal as a PUD?
So it is a PUD, and there is a process in the city that you can amend a PUD. It's not forever. It's forever as long as it stays the way it is. It's given a no time limit, but you are allowed to come in and change it. We have to evaluate the proposed change against the criteria and against what was approved in the original PUD. There's findings that have to be made by the Planning Commission and the City Council that it does either comply or not comply with the findings. And those we can provide to you. They're readily available on the city's website. Every project's evaluated against them. I do want to comment that what the public thinks does matter. The council's not always unanimous in their decision-making. Some of us may lean one way, some another way. It's been mentioned about Verdi. I don't vote yes on everything. I'll just leave it at that. There's consequences to every vote, no matter how that goes. So that's where we stand. Yes.
Naomi, can I ask how the council and the Planning Commission feel about this right now?
I have no idea because it hasn't come before anybody. This is the very first outing, and we don't even have an official application yet that's been submitted.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Would anyone else on Zoom like to give public comments? If you would, please indicate by using the raise hand function at the bottom of your Zoom feature. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to give public comment before we move on?
I'll just wrap this section up by saying, do not assume that this project's coming back at the March 21st, even though that's a schedule, because it was a great point that was made earlier that when applications come in, the master plan in this case, they're always assigned the earliest possible dates that they could be heard, not the actual date they will be heard. So the earliest possible date that master plan change could be heard was this meeting. The other one hasn't even been submitted, so it doesn't even have an earliest possible date yet. And there are multiple, this project's already annexed, so that doesn't have to happen, but it did need a master plan and a PUD amendment if they wanted to move forward with their plan. So feel free to communicate with me, the whole city council, because ultimately a master plan has to go to the city council as a whole. The PUD does as well. So one way or another, this is going to end up in front of city council if they move forward. Mary?
Quick question. Where would we find the findings that they have to meet? In order to
What I would say is, they're in various places, but to simplify it, if you belong to the Ward 2 NAB newsletter, okay, is a very simple check mark. If you sign up for that, I can have, Tyler email those out to the NAB, the newsletter members. Okay, it's the best way to stay in contact with anything. It's, you just go on reno.gov and type in newsletter, search for newsletter, it'll come up. You scroll down, it says what's your name and address. You don't have to fill that out first. You can scroll down. We have about 20, 25 different newsletters. This one's called the Ward 2 NAB. There's another newsletter that you would really be interested in. It's called Development Projects. I kind of live and die by that one because that says every 2 weeks what is coming in. You would see when this project's submitted, it would show up on that next development list, and it would say a probable date again. But probable doesn't mean definite, so you have to check the agenda for the NAB. The agenda is mailed out to the newsletter recipients about 3 days before the meeting. So the multiple ways to find out what's going on. Any other questions? Yep.
When it is on the agenda as a formal item, are we, when you have your time to speak, can you make a presentation, like show a video?
Yes, you can show a video, you can show a PowerPoint, you can show a picture. I don't think we have a possibility of showing overhead at this place, but you can show a video. You'd come early, you give that to Tyler, and he would bring it up at the right time when you want to speak. It would have to stay within the 3 minutes. We do stay a little bit lenient, you know, if it's an extra minute over, we can live with that, but you know, we want to make sure everybody gets heard. Okay.
And is that 3 minutes, if it's on the agenda, is it still following the public comments guidelines?
Yeah, you can either go at the beginning of public comment or during the discussion of the agenda item.
Or would you recommend, because of the 3 minutes, for instance, a video that had been made promoting the equestrian center for the sale of homes? If we thought that city council members should see that video, should we send it prior to the meeting?
Always
Do we have
good.
To view it?
Always good, so you
There's
can.
several, and most of them are 3 or 4 minutes long.
Yeah, always good to send materials ahead to the city council and to the planning commission. The earlier the better, frankly.
Okay.
You can send them to public comment at reno.gov and just say, this is a video for this item. I plan to get public comment. Here's my name. Public comment.
Reno.gov.
Yeah, whichever meeting it is. And then if it's a city council or planning commission, you can go up to the clerk's desk and say, this is my name. I emailed you a video or a PowerPoint or whatever that I'd like to play during my public comment. And they'll make sure that it's all set up when you speak, okay?
Perfect.
At the city council, public comment comes first like this. It can take up to 3 hours. I've been there. The meeting starts at 10 a.m. Sometimes if there's a lot of public comment, we don't get to the beginning of the meeting till like 1. At the planning commission, they recently went till 2 in the morning. They start at 6 p.m. If I was the chair, I probably would have not gone to 2 in the morning. The chair has an opportunity, I think if the meeting goes to 11, to say, we're not going to go past 11, we're going to continue a different day. They didn't do that. So sometimes hearings are 1 and 2 in the morning. So just, you know, it's up to the discretion of the chair. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Yep.
I just had a little quick one that I
Yeah.
said earlier, but I'm a boarder, and I don't know how anybody initially found out about this, but it's been really like all of a sudden, like, why are we not even being informed? To me, that feels very, very shady.
So one of the challenges that I've kind of fought against in the public notification process is that owners get notice. Renters, boarders, lessors do not. The owner of your property gets notice. So since the equestrian center is owned by the developer, they got notice, not the tenants. And this is everywhere. I mean, and I have asked for this to be changed. When I first got on council, I asked for a bigger swath of people to get noticed. That was changed because a lot of the areas that projects come in are surrounded by county and they weren't noticing those folks. So the county folks care as well. There is a requirement that at least 30 people get noticed. Like sometimes there'll be a development on the very edge of the city. And maybe there's only 5 people that are within 750. But we have a requirement that they have to continue going until they hit 30. And they also have to notice on all sides of the project. So we have made changes. We probably could make more, but this one thing about lessors, usually people that live in apartments care more than the owner who might live in Cincinnati, right? About a change. So this is why I try to use social media as much as possible. We try to notice all these meetings on Nextdoor, on Facebook, the city's Facebook, on my Facebook. Okay, so that's what we do. One more question.
Since the developer's representative is here,
Yeah.
could we ask them to be notified as these things are being done? Because since you're getting the notices, or you're actually the cause of why there's a notice, to let Ranchera know what you're doing.
I'm not.
I mean, I said, the representative,
Yeah.
can you ask that we would like to be kept in the know?
Well, I'll give you an example. The same developer did do Lake Ridge. What they did was, they noticed, the swimmers, they noticed people that attended the club, even though they weren't owners in Lake Ridge. And I attended their meeting. That was a proactive required meeting, and about 200 people attended. That's a lot more than 30 or people that live within 750 feet. So it is possible to do more extensive noticing. This is the minimum, not the maximum.
Okay.
Okay. All right, well, I think we'll call it an evening for this. And then we're going to go to the rest of our agenda. Please feel free to stay. You could see in a few minutes kind of how this works.
Thank you. Everyone who's virtual, we're gonna take just like a 5-minute break, run to the restroom. We'll be right back. All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and restart the meeting. And we are going to start with item A.3. Chair?
Thank you so much, Tyler. All right, everybody. Well, that was very informative and very interesting to hear the public comment today. Absolutely. So with that, we would like to move to item A3, approval of the agenda. Do we still have our forms here?
Yes, Chair, you do.
Okay, thank you so much. So approval of the agenda, item number A3. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No, Madam Chair, there's no changes.
All right, thank you so much.
To approve it?
Thank you, Stephen. Do I have a second?
Second that.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's like I got two ayes. Okay, agenda is approved.
Go
All right, moving on to item number A4, approval of the minutes from January 24th, 2023. Tyler, are there any changes to the minutes?
I have not received any requests to change the minutes.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes from January 24th?
Motion.
All right, Stephen's given us a motion. Do we have a second?
Second that.
Okay, Donna and Tyler second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Minutes are approved. Thank you so much, everyone. Okay, council liaison report.
Well, hi, everyone. Good to see you, Zoom in here. That was a rallying start to our meeting. Clearly, there's some high passions about the future of Ranchera and what should be developed there or not. So we'll expect sort of a redo at our next meeting, maybe with some additional exhibits, it sounds like. I think today, I'm gonna leave it at that. We had other than a few comments, we had a whiteout snowstorm a couple of minutes before this meeting started. And that was rather surprising. More snow is still expected. I serve on the Tumwa board and we're about 200% at normal. And we still aren't over the drought because it takes several years of being above normal to get over a drought. And we've been in a multi-year drought. And so they're not ready to declare victory yet, but of course, this is a great start and a great year. We've got a lot of challenges at the city with all the snow, everything from snow plowing to sections of the road getting torn up and resulting in potholes. The city is working on addressing a lot of those things. And it was quite the shakeout, I would say, experience going through the storms, and they're not over. I think we'll be expecting more. And come the March, April timeframe, we'll be expecting some great deal of runoff. So we are at risk for flooding again in the kind of springtime versus the New Year's Day type flooding that we typically get. So with that, I'm just going to keep my comments short today and hand it back to you.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman. Okay, staff liaison report. Tyler, do you have anything to report to us today?
Yes, I do, Madam Chair. For the record, my name is Tyler Shaw, Community Liaison for Ward 2 at the City of Reno. I have a few quick announcements for the members and interested residents. The Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission is now accepting applications for a public at-large representative to serve on the commission. Applications are being accepted from qualified individuals to serve. One individual will be selected to fill the position of a public member to represent environmental, biological, conservation, or public concerns. So if you know anyone who would like to get involved, the materials are in all of the members' packets and they will be posted to today's meeting materials. Up next, we have a few upcoming public engagement sessions. To start, we have the Virginia Street Placemaking Study. This will be the final public engagement session, and it will be at City Hall in council chambers and via Zoom. The meeting will be on Thursday, February 23rd from 5:30 to 8 p.m. So if you're interested, please come. During the session, Gail will present design and program recommendations, which has been inspired by research, community surveys, and input from the last public engagement session in November. And then my last update, we have a micromobility pilot project public engagement session coming up. That one is going to be on Thursday, March 9th at 6 p.m. and will also be at City Hall in the council chambers. City of Reno and RTC staff will be holding a public meeting to discuss the results of the micromobility pilot project, as well as gather input on the future of micromobility in downtown Reno. And those are my updates, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Well, those are three really interesting, two great events, and then with the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission having that vacancy open, so hopefully they'll get some good applicants for that. So thank you so much, Tyler. All right, we're going to move on to our business and development projects. We're going to B.1.1 LDC 23-00043. Pool Classics International. 2, a request has been made for a conditional use permit to allow the establishment of an automotive dealership with 12 or more automobiles, trucks, mobile homes, RVs, boats, or trailers stored on site for sale or rental. The 3.13-acre site is located on 3 parcels in the northern portion of the Foothill Commerce Center, with access from South Meadows Marketplace Drive. The subject site is within the mixed-use suburban zoning district and has a master plan use designation of suburban mixed use. So welcome to the meeting today. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me. All right, there are no horses involved in this project. I promise. Yeah, I'm sympathetic to you guys. You did a good job of handling that. I'm sympathetic to council on those issues. It's always a conflict, right? I think Ranchera is a great place to add density. I don't actually know what's happening with those horses, but I hope a compromise can be worked out. So this, as I hope that,
Introduce yourself.
oh, sorry. Derek Wilson. I'm Stewart, I think, knows me a little bit. I've been active in community for ages, but I'm mostly retired now. I only work on easy projects. If somebody comes to me with a good project, I'll take it. Otherwise, I'm mostly retired. So no horses for me these days. I've done too many of those fights. So this is a project. It's an old client. They've got a bunch of property in South Reno. They've been car dealers down there for some years. And they recently, they want to move their auto dealership to a different property right next door to where they are now. That requires, like it was,
It should be the little right arrow.
yeah, that's, I hit.
Just doesn't like you. I can advance.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Okay, so they need a conditional use permit, a CUP, to establish an automotive dealership. As I mentioned, they already have an automotive dealership, but they're moving to a new site, so that's a new CUP. And they're in the mixed use suburban zone. It's kind of a lost little corner. It's hard to even know this place exists. It's a South Virginia address, but it's not really on South Virginia. It's adjacent to the freeway. You get there, you kind of go behind the Winco. If you're on the freeway, you can see the Tesla dealership, which is right here. That was actually built by these guys. They were getting ready to move in. Tesla came along and said, we got to buy that place. We need it. So that was a good deal for them. So they sold it. They moved to here. That's where they are now. It's too small. In fact, another person wants to buy this one from them. So they're accidentally in the real estate business. Now they're moving to these 2 parcels. It's 2.5 parcels. They're taking this chunk up here. So this is an existing building. That's going to be a new building. And in fact, they're in for building permits on these. And they have a bunch of cars in this building just for storage. They've just been storing them in there as a private collection. They're going to build a building here. It was going to be more storage, believe it or not. They've got a lot of their car collectors. It's classic cars. But now that they're selling this site, they want to move their dealership license to here. That sounds like a big deal. And normally car dealers generate a lot of activity and need a lot of space. Not these guys. It's not a traditional dealership. It's a internet-based. Somebody says, oh, I got to buy that Ferrari. They make an appointment, they show up, they wheel the car out and they look it over. So essentially 0 walk-up business. They're not lining up cars on the freeway and big banners. There's none of that. It's a great site for it. As you know, they're surrounded by dealerships already, so that the roads work for it. The area is used to it. They're surrounded by bulk retail. This is flooring supply. It's a hot tub place. So that kind of large scale retail works well there. Whoops. Now it's working when I'm not touching it. Yeah. So that previous slide was their old site. That's the Tesla dealer. That's just south of this site. That's in fact a similar model to what we're talking about. Nobody Nobody drives by and goes and looks at the Teslas. They aren't there. You buy one over the internet and then you go there and they hand it over to you. So again, a non-traditional dealership, that's exactly the model that they're working on. So a very low impact kind of business.
Is this thing, no, it's,
Yeah, now it's gonna jump a few maybe. We're zoned for it. This MS zone is designed to support low intensity auto oriented uses. So we're hitting that pretty squarely. Oh, one thing while I've got this slide up, I'll tell you. When the freeway was built, the feds don't always care about local issues like drainage. So they just build what they want and then you got to sort it out. And whatever, 50 years ago, when the freeway embankment went in, they didn't do a great job on the drainage here. So there's some runoff that comes from the Audi dealership and then down that little street, and it can pool up right here. And this site has flooded in the past. We're cleaning that all up. This ditch is much deeper now. It's controlled flow. It's hard, it's rock lined. So we're cleaning up some of the drainage in that little problem area.
maybe just let me know when you want me to change the slide.
Oh, okay.
I think the remote is
I just hit the button.
on the front.
So we meet the parking requirement. We're storing the cars inside, fixing a drainage area. Project architecture is pretty nice. It's nicer than a standard warehouse. They're better looking buildings. It's an infill project. We're using an underutilized site, which is one of the master plan goals for the whole city. And they're experienced people. They know how to run this business. They've done it before. That's the sorry. That is the new building on that triangle parcel. This is the existing building that's there now, that's full of cars right now. So really all that's changing on this site is just, they're going to be legally allowed to sell cars at that site. Right now, they're not doing it.
Maybe if you just put the
Yeah,
remote
sorry,
down.
I keep forgetting to tell you, but go one more, please. Traffic's very low. We're looking at a handful of peak hour trips at the most. There isn't a traffic study for this kind of land use. It's a new sort of car dealership model. I had to make some estimates based on this. City engineering said, yeah, okay, that sounds plausible. So likely very low numbers. You won't even notice. So that's really all I've got. Hopefully that was clear enough, but I'll be happy to elaborate if people have questions.
Jerica, most people make an appointment to come to this dealership.
Yes,
correct?
exactly.
They just don't wander up like the other dealerships on some.
Yeah, 100% of their sales right now are internet based. You call or you send an email and you make an appointment. I'm sure, people are free to stop by, but there won't necessarily be anybody there.
Oh, okay.
They've only got 2 staff that would be there. So it's not really in anybody's interest to go wander around.
And so the road that you get to that, like you come into the access, like you're going to Winco, you make that left and then you're just gonna follow that straight up.
Yes,
Is that correct?
exactly.
They're gonna use that
Yep.
existing access.
Yeah. So no road changes, no new streets, no nothing.
Does anyone on Zoom have a question? I have a question before you go back to the Zoom. Could you go back a few slides where you showed the drawing of the building? Not
Yep.
this one, but how it fits in the space, that
Sure.
it's 1 or 2 back from this.
Yeah, there's a site plan in here. Yeah.
Right here.
Yep. So this,
Yeah, back one.
Yeah.
so that building is there now.
Right.
And that was going to be.
So here's my question.
Mhm.
What I've been noticing is you see these existing buildings and how far set back they are from the freeway.
Mhm.
And you see your building, how close it is to the freeway.
Mhm.
How close is it to the freeway?
There's the Y embankment there, so it's from the edge of the actual freeway to
Yeah.
our building is I'm gonna say it's around 175 feet.
And
I
how
haven't.
far do you think the others are?
Pretty far.
Yeah.
250.
Do you know how tall your building is?
Yes, it's gonna be the same as this one, and I'm gonna have to apologize. I don't have exactly that number
is
in
it
my head,
like
but it's around,
2 stories equivalent?
it's 2 stories. So it's around 29, maybe
Okay.
30 feet.
When you were designing it, did they say that you have to be set back so much from the public property that's owned by NDOT?
For some reason, they're more lenient with buildings than they are with signs. This guy a while ago wanted to put a sign out here and he had trouble.
You can have a sign within 100 feet of
Yeah.
the freeway.
Yeah,
And you could get a variance, but to get a variance, you have to show a hardship.
Yeah,
And
we
the
don't-
Supreme Court has said, like,
Right.
really, no.
yeah.
So signs are hard, but go ahead. Do you
But
know
yeah,
how?
we don't need any signs. We don't.
Right,
We
but
don't.
do you know how far step back from the NDOT property you are?
I don't have a number in my head. It's about, I'm gonna say 35, 40 feet.
Okay, so what my concern has been lately, and this is something that's probably gonna be evolving at the city, is that some taller buildings have been built on both sides of the freeway.
Right across
Very
the street,
close.
so really tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And on the other, going a little further south on the other side.
Mhm.
And what they're doing, it's becoming like you're driving through a corridor, concrete corridor on the freeway, never our experience in Reno, Nevada.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they're allowing too tall buildings too close to the freeway.
Mhm.
I mean, when you have similar sized buildings but set back from the freeway, it doesn't have that effect because you can look out over them.
Yeah.
But when they're right up on the freeway, so this has been a concern of mine and I've already talked to the city manager and others about it. I don't know what is making you develop this so close to the freeway. Like, could you come further south and be pulled back a little? Like, in other words, step back. You said you're 35 feet. Could you step back 70 feet, but come closer to the south? I mean,
Well, we're right up on the property line, close to the property line.
I thought
there.
this is the property too.
They're selling off, this is where they are now, this parcel.
Ah.
So they're selling off that chunk.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, yeah. We are, the freeway is raised through there somewhere,
Okay,
so.
so you're not above the level of the freeway?
I'm gonna say we're a little above it, yeah, but I don't think it's not gonna feel like a sound wall, certainly. I mean, that building across the street that was approved as what the old South Meadows PUD, that's pretty big.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah,
It's unbelievable to me and
Yeah.
that we would allow a building like that,
Yeah.
that close to the freeway.
yeah.
And so.
We're nowhere near that building.
So I'm just sharing with you a concern. I don't know if they can address that.
Yeah.
Being so close still, because
Yeah.
I mean. It's a concern.
Yeah, okay, I appreciate it. We'll take a look.
Okay,
It looks like to me that you're up against the maximum allowance for the setback, so you're right there on the edge of whatever the max.
Yes.
Like
yeah,
35
pretty close.
feet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because they're really a storage based business, not a car display.
Yeah.
Dealer, that's why they needed that interior space. Yeah. Yeah, normally dealers don't care about the building, they want the tiniest possible building and the cars up front. These guys are the opposite of that.
Yeah. Steve.
Would any of the members on Zoom?
so what, this is a CUP
Yes, yeah, any auto dealer.
goes to?
Yeah.
So, well, that's a comment. I mean, this is a conditional use permit, and I guess I would make that comment that I think it is too close, and this is a citywide change for 395 that I'm recommending. So I think, it's affecting the view shed, and there may be a criteria that deals with that, I'm not sure. But I'm just sharing, literally today, I spoke to the manager about the building across the street, the building down the way, and what we needed to do to change our building code to not have this level of impingement on the freeway.
Okay.
Like, we have going out I-80, you have the nugget right on the freeway, right?
Yeah.
But you only have one nugget right on the freeway, but some of the things, they have signs close, they have different rules in Sparks. And you can feel it as you go across the line. We would not allow that level of development,
Yeah.
Why? Because we've got to protect some values of the city. I mean, like, if we don't care, it will be like LA, like all the buildings pressed up against the freeway. I don't think that's what we're shooting for.
Well, we'll take a hard look at that. I
Thank you.
appreciate that input. I'm hoping that when you're driving down there, you'll be looking across the top of it.
Maybe.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I'll have to.
We
take
have
a
to
look.
find out.
Yeah, we do.
Any Zoom questions?
Would anyone on Zoom, any of the NAB members, do they have any questions? You should be able to unmute if you do, so just go ahead.
And you can show a little panel with them.
No, Chair, it looks like there's no questions from the members.
Hey, Derek, thank you so much for coming
Yeah,
out.
thank you.
Appreciate your time this evening. Okay, everyone, moving on to item C, board commission committee member request and announcements. Any of the sorts for anybody this evening? Anybody at Zoom, anybody in the room? 5 of us left. Okay, seeing none, we're gonna move on to future agenda items. Does anybody have any future agenda items or thoughts on subject matter that they'd like to see come before our board in the next few months?
Well, I will mention something. The budget will be coming up.
Oh, okay.
And they have like several 3-day sessions planned. And so it is valuable to get some input from you all on the budget, even before it's proposed. Things that you would like to see. I wanted to mention that in March, the ARPA recommendations are coming, March 7th council meeting. So it's the next $25 million tranche essentially of our $50-some million ARPA allocation. There are a number of park projects, and I know 3 of them. One is putting some money to developing a living river park, essentially the whole river, what that would look like. Moving forward on some flat fields, maybe at Pembroke, maybe at the flood project, but probably at Pembroke. And then the one I proposed is some money set aside for Virginia range issues that include the draft, I guess, or proposed wildlife sanctuary that is at Huffacre Narrows, where Southeast Connector and Alexander Road meet right in there. We have some land that was given to us from RTC that I've asked to be reserved for wildlife watering. Water for wildlife, all wildlife, with some viewing stations and signage. Second thing is I'm working on a recreation corridor. I think everybody knows that quite some time. So this hopefully would help us with some planning. And then the third thing is a fencing project that we're working on to keep the horses off of the streets in South Reno. We have a project drawing. We have general support from the local governments. Nobody, including NDOT, which has agreed so far to put a wildlife passage over Geiger grade over under. That's going to be plus $1 million plus. And this would keep the horses off Geiger and off Toll Road and off South Virginia and out of the developments. But we need some money to do it and a project manager. So anyway, I think you'll see something a little shy of 500,000, but something in there to do that. I think there was $3 million allocated so far as a draft for the river and maybe 1 million or 2 for the flat fields. So those are some examples. So I would be happy. I should have at this meeting taken some input on that, but I'm just saying, stay tuned. I'm working as hard as I can to get some funds, for projects that we've been all interested in, either citywide or in our ward. And we won't be doing a lot with housing because the Reno Housing Authority has been given like more money than we even have in toto for housing from the city, from the state, ARPA allocations just for housing. So we've kind of done, we spent early on, we committed almost all 25 million to housing. And some of those projects haven't come forward, and I don't think we're going to add any more because they've got plenty of money to work. You have to committed and spend it by the 2024. So it's not like, we could just say we'll do 20 projects. You have to be able to move forward and start executing on them. And that's why we've been pretty careful on what kind of projects we're picking. But the general budget's going to come up, and we do have a new police chief, Chief Nance, and I'm sure it'll be interesting to see what she proposes, as well as, for fire and others. So those hearings, I think, are in mid-March. Let me just tell you. So that's why I thought the first hearings are end of March. So our meeting will be the week before. So I'd love to hear any thoughts you have about what the city should be doing with our money. Also, I have, if anybody is involved with the Presidio, Regency at Presidio, I'm going to be doing a town hall meeting there at that towards the end of March as well. And let me just see. There's a women's march plan for March 25th. And the RTC is gonna have a board retreat. I see them and speak about their budget. I'm the alternate on there. That's March 17th. So budget time's upon us, you know, bottom line. And I'd love to hear anything from anyone. We are starting to get some more appeals. So our next council meeting on March 8th, we're gonna have here two, apparently. 2 appeals of projects. I don't think any of them are in our ward. I'm just checking out the whole calendar here. We have a council meeting tomorrow. There's a lot on it, and I did want to say that the Canyons is proposing joining with the so there's a new project. It's called what is it called? Just deleted it. It's not called the Canyons, but something villages at something. But they're planning to amend the Canyons PUD. And it's the Macaulay property right next door. And so they are having a workshop tomorrow night, starting at 6:30 about it at the South Dallas Library. And then I asked them to do a Zoom thing. And so 3 weeks later, they are going to have a Zoom workshop if anybody's interested in that project. And these are in addition to coming to the NAB, because then they will come to the NAB. Okay. So those are some upcoming things. So in March, we may have Ranchera, we may have the Canyons. It might be a pretty busy meeting.
I did slightly ask Andy Burling about the Fire Creek Casino,
Yeah.
about when he thinks that might be going to the planning commission, and he said probably not until April.
Oh.
They had some changes that they had to make, some I'm like so done today.
Yeah.
They had some design changes. Thank you.
Oh.
No, I didn't get it out. They had some design changes that they had to make. So now they're looking at possibly going in front of the planning commission in April with that project. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. So keeping an eye on that and watching that closely to see what happens with that ginormous project. So I think we want to keep our finger on the pulse with that one as well.
And you know, we can always ask for a second meeting, like if it changed significantly, we should probably have them back. So something to think about, Tyler.
I do think because that is such a large caliber project, and that's one of the biggest we've ever had in our ward. It might be a good idea, depending on when the planning commission meeting is in April, perhaps if it's after our meeting, we could ask them to come back and just give us another briefing and update on that project of what that's looking like. You know, I did have a thought on that project too, so I'd like that to come back. So that would be something I'd like to request, is to bring those folks back. And so if anybody has any other thoughts or any other projects that they'd like to see come back that's kind of in the works, then just let Tyler know.
I'll reach out to the developer and request that they come back. Of course, you all know I can't make them, but hopefully they'll come back and talk to you again.
Then it looks like Donna may have
Go ahead, Donna.
Hi, I just had a comment. This is back before you started on a different topic, but last meeting, Ashley was going to look into whoever's supposed to know about building all the tall buildings off the side of Virginia Street and along the freeway. And I was just wondering if there was any follow-up on that, because that was a month ago. And it's the same thing that you're talking about, which is that we are corridorizing ourselves and becoming downtown Chicago where you can't see the sun. So, and I have bad feelings about that. No point in waxing eloquently now, but I wondered if the comment last time was, well, we don't really know. We'll have to find out. So did anybody find out? Anything to report about that?
I'm actually glad you brought that up, Donna. Ashley and I have been working with our planning staff. They weren't available to come to tonight's meeting, but we are working with them. We remember your comments. So we're going to work to try and get something in an upcoming meeting. We're not quite sure what it'll look like yet, but once we send out the agenda, you'll know, but I promise I'm working on it.
Well, and maybe we could add to that the issue I brought up, and maybe we could get an update on what the standards are along those Virginia Street and 580. And, you know, the NAB, it's not unheard of that the NAB could request a change in our code.
Well, I have, since you mentioned it, I have, and a lot to say, but not right now. But as Naomi, you did, spearheaded revising the underlying zoning for the master plan zoning, that, you know, what's the density in SMU, everything has to be MF30, which it shouldn't be.
Right.
And I think from looking at all the development projects all over the city, clear up in the North Valleys everywhere, I think a lot of mistakes were made by broad brushing large areas as if they were X when really they weren't. Because I don't know why, but that's how it happened. Like, you know, just even that little chunk of Peckham and Moana,
Right.
you know, so now there's another one coming up and the church wants to rezone there, but you know, it just goes on and on and on. And the underlying concept there is, well, you called it SMU in the first place, so we should allow all this stuff. I think that was a mistake. You know, there's things where the higher densities should be on major intersections and they're not. They're getting everywhere. I think it's out of control. And I don't know. I realize that some people pay attention to NAB comments and a lot of people don't. And by the people, I mean people who should, like on council, not you. But I was just wondering if for a future agenda topic, perhaps this board could discuss what's going on with the actual application of the master plan and what the reality is now that it's been zoned for 2 years. This has all been going on. What are we really getting? Like this stuff you're talking about with the tall buildings and the corridors and these things. There's some issues, and it just seems to me that we're supposed to be an advisory board. We see things happening. Could the board communally submit something to council as?
I think they could. Done. An example that comes to my mind on what you're saying is, I've heard from people that live on Warren Way that they don't even have striping on Warren Way. You know, people are using it as a cut through, but we're putting all this housing there. But the road is a bit substandard for that level of housing. And so that's an example where, you know, to the gentleman's point earlier about infrastructure, you know, we haven't upgraded the road and the sidewalks, but we're putting all this density there. And so it's a great question. And you're right, I did spearhead, you know, that you could go lower density. And in fact, I was very inspired because we had a workshop here, what was it, last meeting? About the project that's just south of the shopping center where Palais des Jade is.
Yes.
And that gentleman decided to downzone his request to MF14 after he heard the comments from this board. So I don't know if you heard the end of that, but he had come in, I think, with MF30 originally, then his consultant said.
It's MF21 and they took it to planning commission.
Thought of MF30 and the consultant advised him to only go to MF21. And then he heard these comments and so he's submitting for MF14. So good job. I mean, we still have density, but it's not as dense and it will include enough parking because the road is fully parked.
Okay, thank you, Donna, for your thoughts on that and for that suggestion.
Well, is that something that we can do I mean, I don't even know. Is that something we can do as a board? I don't know.
I think so. I mean, nobody said you can't. So, I mean, we're focused on Ward 2 and that's you're most in touch with Ward 2, everybody here in your neighborhoods. So if there's something that's not working, that's why I brought up about the building so close to the freeway, it bisects our ward. And I see where it's going and I'm concerned. So I don't know if something changed that all these buildings started getting closer to the freeway.
It just happened all at once.
Well, I know, I feel like something changed.
Yeah.
Something
Can we
must have.
put that on an agenda item? Yeah, I brought this up under the future agenda items topic.
Right.
Because if we don't make space to talk about it as an agenda item, we can't really talk about it.
Well, exactly. So I brought it up in but I was saying to please add it to your agenda, you know, that you were asking for.
Yeah, I'll make sure to kind of condense everything into one item and I'll work with staff to get a presentation for the board and see what we can do. Thank you for your comments, Donna.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Obviously, no more public comment. And so we'll move on with that. And
Well, is there anyone on the Zoom who'd like to give public comment?
any Zoom.
If you'd like to give public comment, please raise your hand. I don't see any, Madam Chair. We're good.
Okay, thank you, Tyler, so much for reminding me about our lovely Zoom audience. And with that, would anybody make a motion for adjournment?
Move to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Everybody drive home careful. That has to drive home careful, so.